Hello, you all. I'm ANDREI Polejack. I am currently in Sweden now, doing my PhD at the World Maritime University, an university linked to the United Nations. But I am originally from Brazil, where I work at the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovations, and I have been coordinating the ocean and polar sciences in Brazil for a long time now. So today I'm going to be addressing to you the role of research infrastructure in facilitating ocean science diplomacy. And bear with me for the next minute so I can guide you through some basic concepts. So first of all, I believe it is necessary for us to look at the role of research infrastructure in international relations. So RI and IR. And large-scale research infrastructure is very expensive, as we all know, and most of the times require international collaboration. And examples of such abound: space stations, telescopes, particle accelerators, polar bases, and efficient research infrastructures serve multiple research projects and collectively progress knowledge for societal benefit. And in that particular case, the ocean is very important because it is a multi-scale life supporting system for all of us that deeply depends on research infrastructure to produce knowledge for its management and governance. And I believe that ocean science diplomacy relies intensively on research infrastructure because of the dependence of the ocean science in research infrastructure. So I dealt about this subject in this recent publication. And many of the projects that the examples that I will go through here, they are called science diplomacy just because some of the basic concepts within this theme actually abound to that. So just for an example, this is a picture, a map from last year of all the research infrastructure and research equipment that we have in the ocean right now. Some of them are temporary, some of them are continuous. So next image is the same map showing only the fixed research infrastructure that we have. So not much, right? Which leaves us with large gaps in our knowledge about the ocean. And the ocean is particularly important for the climate regulation of the planet, and it is what actually makes life possible on the planet. So those green dots there, they are moored buoys that keep track of oceanographic and atmospheric variables over time. And they are particularly important at the tropical regions of the globe because of the exchange of heat and other oceanographic dynamics. And there are currently 4 programs only in the whole world that deal with those moored buoys. And one of them at the far right is called Pirata, and it is a multilateral program shared between Brazil, the United States of America, and France for over 20 years, collecting data continuously, which actually makes us understand a little bit more on ocean variables and how they affect us. So regarding the role of those research infrastructure and how science is key to promote ocean governance, we in that article that I recently published, we try to frame this ocean science diplomacy into the natural field of science diplomacy that was categorized by the Royal Society of London into 3 schemes. So the first one is science in diplomacy, where scientific evidence informs negotiations and supports decision-making. The second one would be diplomacy for science, in which diplomacy works for scientific endeavor. So it fosters joint global research projects and capacity building schemes. And the third one is when science for diplomacy is when science allows countries, facilitates a dialogue between countries, even when they are in conflicting situations. Examples abound. So in that case, we advocate that ocean science diplomacy, it is intrinsically linked to ocean governance, which is intrinsically linked to research itself, that is highly dependent on research infrastructure for social benefit and impact. And a major movement is happening right now, which is the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, that is has just started and it will go until 2030. So the scope of the work envisaged during the decade is beyond the capacity of any single nation, and the ocean once again is offering us an opportunity to work together for the common good in the true spirit of multilateralism. So that key element is present in the official documents coming from the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, who is from UNESCO, who was mandated by the UN General Assembly to look after this decade. So the idea behind this decade is that we actually foster ocean science and thus the use of research infrastructure for social benefit and for our well-being. So the decade has been split into 10 objectives, among which 3 of them are exclusively dealing with infrastructure, such the importance of that issue it is. So among all those 10 elements, research infrastructure is underlying a necessity that will need to be fostered further in the next decade. So the idea behind the decade is also to balance countries and regions' scientific and technical capabilities. So again, science diplomacy will be extremely important for the decade as a process to foster that. So in summary, what I'm bringing to you today is that we have the UN Decade for Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, seeking to promote research for social benefit. And then we have ocean science, which is deeply dependent on research infrastructure to be conducted. And on the other hand, ocean research infrastructure is very expensive, and international cooperation is very common on the ocean. And at large, society will benefit from an improved ocean governance based on the best available scientific knowledge, fulfilling back the decade's main goals. So it is kind of a cycle that we're living now, and ocean science diplomacy is informing all of that. There are many scholars that advocate that large-scale research infrastructure are actually living hubs for science diplomacy to happen. And they always come upon with the CISAME, the particle accelerator in the Middle East, as well as CERN in Switzerland as good examples of that. But we are bringing now the ocean with a lot of research infrastructure that actually are bringing communities together. And by the end of the decade, we hope that this will also include more social participation. So one good example of how we are doing that is the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance that was built upon 3 international agreements, the first one being the Galway Statement signed in 2013 between European Union, Canada, and the USA. The second one was the South-South Framework for Scientific Cooperation between Brazil and South Africa. And the third one is the Belém Statement that brings Brazil, South Africa, and the European Union together to foster research and align research infrastructure throughout the whole Atlantic. And after that, the EU even signed bilateral agreements with Argentina, Cape Verde, and Morocco. So we are being more open now to other contributions. The All-Atlantic Research Alliance supports cooperative research for social benefit. It is inclusive, but it's also looking at the well-being of the citizens and bridges communities beyond research. And more details can be found in that in this recent publication as well. So I hope that you have, together with me, understand how critical it is, international cooperation in terms of maintaining research infrastructure, but also improving the usage of that research infrastructure for social benefit. And one of the important things that I would like to stress at the end of the day is that when we were building up the Belém Statement along with the other agreements in the All-Atlantic Alliance, it was key to have together with us not just the academic community, but also the research infrastructure managers that are the ones that actually know how this the impact that the research infrastructure is actually achieving at the social level. So I'd like to thank you very much for your time, and I would be most happy to take any further questions. Thank you very much.